Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, profiler here, and welcome. And on a Christmas Eve. So here we are talking about mayhem and murder. Well, it's what we're into, right? That's what we follow. So anyway, I want to send out our condolences immediately to all the family and friends of the victims up in Moscow, Idaho. And I want to be talking today, we're going to be talking today about the suspect, Bryan Kohberger. And I have to tell you that he's completely innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. He's thought and considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I should not say completely innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, but I guess that's just a play on words because if you're not guilty, you're innocent, right? When the jury comes back. Also, I'd like to thank everybody for my book. Thank you so much for all your purchases. Discovering Lazarus, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of John Kelly, How I Kicked a Very Harsh Cocaine Addiction, Became a Counselor, Psychotherapist, and eventually a profiler. Thank you so much for all your purchases, kind words, and comments. Thank you. Can't thank you enough. For all those who are interested in this, please subscribe. And for our great audience who's very intelligent, please continue to comment. We love your comment. We know we'll always get back to you. And we really like to hear what you have to say. You're a really, really smart group. And, it's always good to hear. Okay. So today I want to introduce our producer, Leah. She has something she wants to talk about. She's, a little bit curious here, and I don't blame her at her age. I understand her curiosity. Go ahead, Leah.
Yeah, thanks, John, for having me on. I appreciate it. This is something we've kind of talked about here. These posts from Bryan Kohberger, back in, 2010, 2011, when he was about 16, going on 16 years old. Yeah, I'm curious, a 16-year-old having this much self-analysis into themselves. I mean, that's just shocking. Um, what I know what my thoughts are on it, but what are your thoughts? Do you have some general thoughts on these posts before I really get into asking you questions on them?
Well, I'll tell you what, a few things I've come across is that, he had this addiction to heroin early on, and then he was able to kick it and go off to rehab. And he did pretty well with his life after rehab, from what we understand. But what's interesting to me, might be interesting to the audience, we're going to be going over a lot of this stuff later on down the line. Heroin is such a strong central nervous system depressant and such a sedative that it's hard for me to believe that a sexual stalker, a fantasy killer, definitely would have a drug of choice like heroin. So it's obvious he kicked the heroin because he wouldn't be, if he stayed using heroin and kept his heroin addiction going, there's no way he'd be stalking anybody. He'd be immobilized. I mean, it's that strong of a sedative. Okay, so somewhere along the line, he not only kicked the heroin, but I think he picked up another drug of choice, if you will. He became a stimulant addict and started to become stimulated by crime, and the criminal justice system, and moving onward through the criminal justice system, to see exactly where he was going to go, and he was achieving. So I think that was his new drug of choice. Okay. The other thing I think that's very important for us to bring out, a lot of people said, well, hey, look at this guy, really no criminal background. He has no criminal history, And what I want to clarify is I look at this guy as a mass murderer, not as a serial killer yet. Okay. I'm looking at 4 young people killed, and he's the major suspect in the case with a knife in Moscow, Idaho. And the bottom line is that, he's a mass murderer. He's not a serial killer. I'm not even going to say he is a thrill killer. I'm saying he's a mass murderer. And if you look at mass murderers in general, the majority, if not the vast majority, don't have any criminal record. They don't have a criminal background. That's how a lot of them are able to go out and purchase weapons, because they don't have a criminal history. So that's not something that surprises me with Mr. Kohberger, that there was no criminal history here, Also, I think it's good if we kind of get into some of your questions, because really we're looking at the ingredients that possibly made the monster. And this started at a very young age. Would you like to start talking about that?
Yeah, certainly. So, these were from, like I said earlier, 2010 and 2011. Bryan was just about ready to turn 16 at the first post, and then, he's 16 at the time of the others. So I just kind of want to pick your brain on these and, maybe go through them here. I'll read through them and you just kind of jump in. I really want to get your feedback and, professional opinion on some of the things he's saying at this age. It's very intriguing. So if you're okay, I'll jump right into them here.
Go ahead. Sure. Right.
Okay. All right. So the first one from October 29th of 2010. Now, this was on the Tapatalk platform, I believe. First couple sentences here. So from Bryan, I have felt completely disconnected from reality. I feel all the time that I'm living in my own reality. It seems as if my brain chemistry is altered from this, even though I'm certain it's not.
Yeah, see, this is kind of his beginning into disassociating, right? Like, he feels like he's disassociating. He feels as though he's not anchored in reality, but he knows he is. So what's starting to happen is, he's analyzing himself at this very, very young age. I mean, who analyzes themselves like this, and does this deep dive into their psyche at 16 years old? And, he's realizing that he's kind of separating himself in a way from society. I mean, for whatever reason, I think the big word here is kind of, disassociating. Do you want to just read it back one more time?
Yeah, not a problem. So I have felt completely disconnected from reality. I feel,
Disassociation. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
yep,
ahead.
I feel all the time that I'm living in my own reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It seems as if, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I think when you look at, living in my own reality, also this is the start of the, narcissism. He probably doesn't have a clue, but this is starting to take hold. My own reality. It's not the reality of the world. I mean, it's just, in his reality, you know. So I can see the disassociation and the the narcissism kind of starting to take place. Go ahead.
Okay. It seems as if my brain chemistry is altered from this, even though I am certain it's not.
See, my brain chemistry, it seems as though my brain chemistry is altered, even though I'm sure it's not, right? And in a way, he's saying there's something going on here. I'm going through this stage, and it's as if, my brain is being altered, but I'm certain it's not. Now, the other thing we have to take into consideration, okay, I mean, he's a teenager, all right? His brain is still forming. He's only around 16 years old, right? So, there are changes taking place. There's no question about that, like there would with anybody. But for him to talk about, his reality and, to focus on, disassociating, those are clues that the brain is forming in a probably much different way with him, that he's starting to have these feelings and thoughts at this age. But to be honest with you, and he's not a serial killer at this point, but in talking with serial killers, they start to have obsessions and fantasies, starting around 12 to 14 years old. And a lot of them talk about being able to disassociate themselves from, the forbidden or the some of the evil things that they do or they've done, like torturing animals or fire setting, things like that. And they really, insist they, just have no remorse. And they can disassociate. They have no guilt, So go ahead.
Okay. Next we have, at first, I felt very uninterested in the things I usually like to do. But then it changed to the point I saw no reason for anything, and everything became boring to me.
See, what that does is, that lack of enjoyment, that lack of pleasure, the inability to feel pleasure. Now that it could be considered anhedonia, which is a type of depression, and it's the inability to really enjoy pleasurable things that you used to enjoy, but now you don't enjoy them anymore, right? So, did you mention as well? He said he was boring, or did you
Yes,
said
everything
repeat that
became
again?
boring. Yeah,
Everything
so
became boring. Okay, so we see that a lot too with sexual offenders, serial killers early on in life, where everything else that they've done or got pleasure from, like playing baseball, playing football, or watching TV or whatever, becomes mundane. It's not interesting to them. It's not fun to them anymore. They're not really getting any pleasure out of it. So now they get into thrill seeking. Usually, they have a very, very short attention span. They really want to focus on, the forbidden, the dangerous, more dangerous things in life, to stimulate them. And that's where this really starts to take hold. That's where lots of times, the fantasy starts, because the fantasy is extremely stimulating. So if they're walking around not feeling or unable to feel any pleasurable things, and the only pleasure they get is when they are focusing and obsessing over the forbidden, usually some kind of, we talked about it the other day, peeping Tom, voyeurism kind of stuff. fire setting, hurting animals, maybe starting to stalk, really that kind of stuff is where the stimulation comes from. I mean, the forbidden may be against the law, may be considered evil. I mean, whatever definition you want to give the forbidden. But one thing the forbidden is very, very stimulating. And to these guys, I mean, that's why they're always stuck in this fantasy, because that's where they're getting their pleasure.
Mhm. Makes a lot of sense. So leading on to that here, this next sentence, I feel at times completely disconnected and as if I can't live like a normal person.
Yeah, see, that's like this like asocial behavior maybe starting to take place. Maybe he's just not feeling connected to other people, you know? And because he's not connected for other people, because he doesn't have feelings for other people, it's very hard for him to feel a connection. Uh, Again, this is kind of textbook in the younger years. These guys don't feel connected. And unfortunately, that goes right on through adulthood and right on through the rest of their lives. I mean, they feel as though they are aliens among us. And I got that from Keith Hunter Jesperson, serial killer, called the Happy Face Killer, serving time out in Washington State. I mean, he couldn't talk enough about feeling so different all his life from other people. And he pretty much said he had to fake it till he made it, right? I mean, just keep faking people off. He knew what they wanted to hear, so he just tell people what they wanted to hear. But he really had no connection with humans. He it was like, and I'm kind of quoting him here, maybe not exactly, but we are aliens amongst you. And when you think about that, somebody that doesn't feel any guilt and feel any remorse, feel any kind of emotional connection to other people, and is always in their mind living in this fantasy world, usually a sexual fantasy of dominance and maybe murder. Um, they have to disassociate. It's hard to be connected if that's all you think about and obsess about is you know, sexually dominating and killing other people.
Mhm. All right, next we have, when I think about my future, I think about how I will barely remember my mother and father, etc., because I have an altered memory and also have been unable to think of them due to the 10 things I think about nonstop all at once. He only lists 5. Now we have visual snow, altered brain, tinnitus, disappointment, regret, etc.
Yeah, regret is important to me because he's only mentioning 5.
Mhm.
And he thinks about these 10 things all at once, right? But he doesn't mention the other 5. I guarantee you the other 5, he's probably scared to put down on paper because it's involving his fantasy and his slipping into the abyss, so to speak. I mean, because that's what happens. Would you repeat that one more time for me?
Not a problem. All right, let's see here. Okay, when I think about my future, I think about how I will barely remember my mother and father, etc., because I have an altered memory and also have been unable to think of them due to the 10 things I think about nonstop all at once. Visual snow, altered brain, tinnitus, disappointment, regret, etc.
And, this talking about, what did he say? Altered brain?
Yep.
Yeah. So, him thinking that, things are happening, things are changing. And I think it's really his being consumed, being consumed by these other things. And I will again say that a lot of it has to do with this fantasy, this living in the realm of the forbidden, the evil, the things he believes are evil, that he's being so consumed in this direction that he's going to have a very, very hard time thinking about his mother or his father. Now, will he ever forget about his mother and father? I don't know. I've never met, a killer who's forgotten about the mother or father in one way or the other, the good or the bad. But at his age, I think he's just feeling like he's being, so consumed, and that, all he thinks about is what goes on in the fantasy, and that's all that's in his mind. I mean, it really, really, the way they obsess, in these various fantasies is unbelievable, unbelievable. And a lot of them usually don't go very far academically or with work, because that becomes their new addiction, the fantasy. They're like addicted to it, or, if you want to call it obsessive compulsive thinking, or whatever, however you want to look at it. But, so they're in that fantasy all day long and everything. That's all I want to think about. It's where, like he said, where he doesn't get pleasure from anything else, right? From anything else. So he's got to be getting pleasure out of this, or he wouldn't be doing it. So, I mean, it's really unbelievable to look at somebody at this age and start to see this metamorphosis, if you will, towards the abyss take place. I mean, it's really really an interesting part. Did I answer your questions? Because I'm kind of hopping around here on that last question.
No,
Did
I
I
think you
miss
did.
something?
No, I think you got it there. And yeah, you make a really good point. Like for a 16-year-old to have this kind of analysis of themselves.
Yeah, I mean, talk about deep diving into the abyss,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, were you thinking about this at 16? I know I wasn't thinking
Uh-huh.
about anything. I mean, I'm trying to enjoy pleasurable things in life, maybe too much, but the point I'm trying to make is, I mean, this guy is definitely he's in that fantasy early on, early on. I mean, and the fantasy just gets to a point where it might become boring, and then they enhance it. Maybe it's the fantasy of just looking at somebody. Then maybe, they have to expand on it, and it's, looking through a window at somebody in different stages of interest. Or maybe it's, stealing something, undergarments or something like that. I mean, they're always enhancing it. They're always moving with it.
Mhm.
And what's interesting to me is he's aware this is going on, and he's writing it out. I mean, he's talking about. Although I know serial killers that are journal freaks. I mean, they're journaling all the time, even in prison. I mean, they're journaling away.
Mhm. Yes.
They keep going back to this because it's so attracting and addicting and gives them so much pleasure that they can't stop reading and writing about it too. Yeah.
Hmm. That is fascinating. Well, here, I'll continue on here. We got some more goodies. Um, so he says here, I think that possibly it could have brought this onto myself from post-traumatic stress disorder or something similar, but I can't tell what it is. Right? I have two medicines mixed, Divalproex and topiramate, hope that's how you pronounce it, with 16 extra strength Mucinex pills, and have felt like this could have altered my brain, comma, but I remember how it was before, and remember that I felt like it before.
Yeah, this talk about trauma, post-traumatic stress. At this age, I might have done it to myself. That's interesting. I don't know what he means by that. I mean, I don't know if he was in any life-threatening situation that he may have put himself in early on. If he was, starting to move to the other side and moving closer to the edge with the heroin, and I don't even know if he's using heroin now or not, but there's something that he feels he may have done to himself to cause this post-traumatic stress. Why doesn't he think anything else could have caused it besides him? So you're starting to see him starting with this negativity. A friend of mine, a doctor who's a friend of mine, calls it negatitis. He's starting to, focus on himself, as being the cause, of his thinking and problems, and looking at himself. It's a pretty bad person. I mean, I'm not even going to remember my mother and father, as you brought up earlier, right? So, I mean, what kind of person doesn't ever want to think about their mother or father, or won't be able to think of their mother and father? I mean, where is he deep diving, off what cliffs into, what waters, Go over that again. He's on the medication now too. That's prescribed medication. I think that's convulsants, anti-convulsive medication.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right. But also, what I don't understand is why there's obviously been a medical intervention, but I don't really see or hear of him being in therapy or hear of him being on an antidepressant, because that anhedonia, that's a kind of depressive disorder, can be treated very easily. So he's writing this stuff out, but I don't guess he's not talking to a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist about this inability to experience pleasurable things. Because at that point in time, they would definitely jump probably to some type of antidepressant, and maybe if he does have post-traumatic stress, which is an anxiety disorder, they'd probably be focused on an anti-anxiety medication as well. I mean, I don't know, but I just think, there was only I'm not quite sure about the medical intervention he had, and then taking all these, what'd you say, 16, what is he taking?
16 extra strength Mucinex pills.
Mucinex, 16 extra strength Mucinex pills. I mean, I'm not understanding. I'm not understanding, I'm just really wondering what his diagnosis is at this point in time. I mean, I think it's strange hearing all this. And then what did you say?
Following that, he said, after 16 extra strength Mucinex pills, and have felt like this could have altered my brain, but I remember how it was before, and remember that I felt like it before. Not sure where he's going there.
Yeah, maybe he's getting off somehow to all these Mucinex pills in combination with his medication. Maybe he's, getting some kind of high or sedation or something out of this. But again, I have to believe it's the forbidden, a walk, around the forbidden tree, the forbidden fruit, because I mean, who tells you to take 16 Mucinex pills? Right? I mean, that is like self-medicating, tempting the hands of faith with some kind of overdose or something. But even though it's scary, remember, doing fearful things, risk taking can be stimulating. So I mean, again, his brain is forming at this age. I don't know. I'm sure he's getting something out of this, but and writing about it to boots, but I'm not quite sure what it is.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting nonetheless, though. We got one last part here for this one. It is all real BS. If I have any chemistry change, I have this detox program that can fix it. End of post.
See, it's all just BS because I'm really in control. Say, he's starting to talk a little bit about control. I'm really in control. No problem. I'm in control. I could take care of this. I have this special detox, okay, that I can do. And that will do what for him? What does he say that'll do?
It can fix it.
And it can fix this. And what is it he wants to fix?
The chemistry change. If I have any chemistry change, I have this detox program that can fix it.
Okay, so he knows the chemistry change is the medications, right? The 16 Mucinex, right? So that's the chemistry change, this body chemistry change. And he can change this, but he has to detox himself off this medication. Right. And he knows just what he's doing and how to do it. All right. So again, he's in control. He can handle it. He knows what he's doing. And no talk of anybody else. No talk of anybody else. So, again, that brings me back to this focus on narcissism. He's starting to, I think, focus more, on narcissistic thinking. I got this. I'm the guy. I don't need a medically supervised detox. I could do this,
So, John, with wrapping up this first post of Bryan's, my main question is why even post this? Why should he post this? Because he's clearly saying he knows it all at the end. What are your thoughts on him making this a public post for everybody to see?
Well, you remember I talked about the narcissism in the beginning? I mean, this is blatant narcissism, around 16 years old and attention seeking, looking for attention. Here I am putting it out to the public. Look at me. I'm special. And these are the negative reasons why I'm so special. Further on in this series, we're going to get into this as we continue to dissect them. But now he's putting himself out there blatantly focusing on a lot of his negative traits and his problems. Okay. So, I look at it as just blatant narcissism.
Now, could it be, look at it another way, could it be a plea for help maybe and trying to get attention or something?
Well, definitely getting attention one way or the other, but you've got a good point there. could it be a plea for help? Okay. Personally, I don't think so, but it could be. He's only 16 here. He knows something's going on. He knows something's going on in his mind. He's not enjoying pleasurable things. He's going through a lot of distress inside of his head. Okay, so he's trying to pin it down, but then is in ending it, I've got to pin down. I know the detox. I can handle it. No problem. So it's a good question. It's something to think about. Is it a plea for help at 16? Or, I feel like I'm going out of control, so it's a plea for help. Or is it just the blatant narcissism? So I guess we'll stay tuned to find out.
I guess we
I think
will.
it's narcissism.
That's certainly a possibility for sure.
With all that being said, thank you so much. All right, for these questions today. I think you've made it a very interesting conversation for our
Thank you, John.
audience. And we'll pick it up from here sooner than later. And right now, I just want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, however you're looking at it. Most important thing is take care of yourself. Be vigilant out there. Be on your toes. We live in a very dangerous world. Have a great holiday. God bless. And until we meet again, take care.